So chapter 11, which is Quidditch. Very Quidditch centric chapter here. Let's just start off. What did you guys see in this chapter? What were some interesting points that you had? We are still going to talk a lot about Quidditch because this is a very Quidditch centric chapter. But what'd you see?
This doesn't really have to do with a lot with the plot, but I really like how she worded that very first sentence of the chapter. She said, "As the mountains around the school became icy gray and the lake like chilled steel."
Hmm.
I just love the way that she had described that. It was just, I don't know. It's one of those lines that has always kind of like stuck with me.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah, it
description.
provides a mood.
Yeah.
That's part of why I love these books in general too, is just like for the seasonal like nature of them. And as soon as we start getting into like fall and winter, the plot always seems to start picking up.
Yeah.
So I love that too.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things playing Legacy. It was like the seasonal changes in Legacy was so cool.
Yeah. The fact that they even built that into the game was
Yeah.
just so cool, you know?
Yeah.
Because she's right. It is like really nice. I like this, like, yeah.
Yeah. I love one of my favorite moments in this book is Lee Jordan shooting a shot with Angelina during the commentary for the match. I love that moment so much.
I just like just all of Lee Jordan. He's just great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really kind of make this chapter.
I'm very surprised that he's not more, I don't know his like desirability or anything like that, but I feel like this guy would be the most popular guy at the school. Maybe he is, but
you know,
yeah, I feel like he'd be such a ladies' man. I feel like Angelina would like be over the moon with this guy. You know, he's like just a smooth talker.
Yeah,
Angelina always seemed like a rule follower and like kind of a like a stick up your where sometimes. So maybe she didn't really like that part of Lee.
I slightly agree with you on Lee Jordan being more popular, but he's the third to the twins.
Yeah, that's true. The twins are probably taking a little bit of his glory, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. To be honest,
if the twins weren't there, he'd be the most popular for sure.
Yeah, maybe. He definitely seems to be like, not necessarily threatened by them. It's like a cool friendship that they have. I feel like they're all such individuals. The twins a little maybe less so because they're twins, especially in the movies when they're literally like finishing each other's sentences, and you don't get any of that in the book, which is a little ridiculous. Yeah, Angelina is a rule follower, but she still marries George, which is interesting. Maybe George just tones it down after the death of Fred. Oh,
but George is also
there's a lot of
the
yeah,
pair,
he is, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of trauma that got involved in that marriage.
Yeah, for real.
There you go.
Yeah.
Their couples therapy must have been a little interesting.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Wait, how so?
The trauma in the relationship?
Yeah.
Fred and Angelina were together, and I feel like George married Angelina as a way to like kind of help her heal, but also help him heal. And it was, I don't know, like they both shared that they lost Fred. It was something that like kind of bonded over, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
They only went on a date. I don't think they like were together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, are you talking Fred and Angelina or George and Angelina?
Fred and Angelina.
Yeah. There's just the one great scene for the Yule Ball. They went to the Yule Ball together, but it didn't really say that they dated after that. So maybe they were just like really good friends. I don't know. I guess that's like kind of like them dating, but I don't know.
It's always been headcanon, I guess, maybe if it's not written in that they were together.
Yeah.
Or that they at least had feelings for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's like more the headcanon. Like Fred, maybe Angelina always had a crush on Fred, but Fred was like too cool. Maybe in his eyes, he thought he was too cool for it. So he never really asked her out. And the one time at the Yule Ball, because that's a great moment when he asked her and Angelina's like, yeah, of course I want to go. Yeah. That sounds, yeah.
Yeah. Cause he's showing Ron, hey, it's this easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're 14, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I am aware.
Oh,
Also, I
God,
did
it's
think
terrible.
Lee. I think Lee Jordan was very popular, but the thing, like, Harry doesn't follow them all the time. He doesn't know what happens. He only sees like snippets of them in the common room. He doesn't see what happens during classes and stuff like that. So, I think it was very popular. It sounded like it.
I was surprised with how much Lee Jordan was mentioned in like the first two books, that he wasn't more involved in the later books.
I mean, he's a great radio host. Fantastic radio host.
Yeah. He's the best. Top
Yeah,
tier.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason he's the commentator in his third year.
Yeah.
When he left and Luna took over for that one game, it was epic.
Yeah. So good.
So crazy.
Another random question for this chapter that's non-Quidditch related, really. But do you guys have any idea or theories on the Weasleys, the gold glint on the Weasleys, their wristwatches, where they got those? It's definitely passed down, right? So actually, no, that's not passed down at this time because they're not of age. Are they of age?
Yeah, because they become of age in 7th year.
So did they steal these? Did they nick these? How do they have gold wristwatches?
A good question.
Maybe they got them early or something. I don't know.
Never really thought about it before. No.
Weren't they their like Molly's brothers' watches?
They get those when they come of age.
Yeah, they get those when they come of age. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, they might have other watches. I've had watches all my life.
Like maybe it was just a watch. It wasn't like a.
Yeah, there's no meaning behind it.
No.
Come on, that's too boring, guys. There has to be meaning.
Some of them has been made of real gold. I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah, it's not like I just think they just have watches. It's I don't think too much of it. It's 91 at this time. Everybody had a watch.
That's a good point.
Yeah, John, everyone had a watch.
Would a watch work?
Yeah,
Hogwarts.
Mechanical. It's no. It's
There's no electricity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They might have to wind them.
Yeah, they gotta wind them. There's no battery powered one, but they gotta wind them. That'd be a little wild.
It does seem like you would take that off though for a Quidditch game.
Yeah.
Like just thinking about soccer games, like having jewelry on is potentially cause for injury or get snagged on something. And
but I don't think
it also interferes with your vision, seeing the snitch. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, don't wear a watch if you're the seeker. But I mean,
it's just, again, Hooch just isn't doing her job with the pre-game checks. There definitely should be no jewelry, and it's all Hooch's fault. She's like, you can wear whatever you want. The Weasleys are definitely doing it as like tactics. They're like, they have gold wristwatches on their ankles, on their wrists. They're putting them like on their ears as like they're just like flying gold like specters that just go throughout the Quidditch pitch.
Also, the Weasleys might be using it to like reflect the sun into other people's eyes.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Like off the faceplate, and they might just be like timing the bludgers to see how fast they're actually going that day. Because they're really smart.
Stats.
Everybody forgets about that. The twins are really, really smart.
I like how they are portrayed as like they're obviously very, very intelligent, and I love how the point is made in the book that like they don't make the greatest marks, but they're still really smart.
Yeah.
People just aren't like good at school. There's a difference between being smart and being good at school.
I mean, we have all those stories in like, the Muggle world of those people who dropped out of college and all of a sudden, they started these incredible businesses. I feel like Fred and George are just that kind of example. Like they're almost too smart for school. They don't really need a lot of this stuff. They've learned what they've needed to learn, and then they have such good business mindset. Like they're creative enough again, which is why I think they'd be so good in the Triwizard tournament. I think they would have been so excellent in that. Fred in particular.
Yeah, they're novel ideas on how to solve each problem.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they started a business in cool. Like, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love even in the last book their ingenuity of like they're still running their business, but they're running it like the back of someone's house, like a mail order service. Like they just know what they're doing. It's great.
They found their passion.
Yep.
They ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So true. Back to a little bit of Quidditch talk. I was curious about the line where Wood is basically keeping Harry a secret and nobody has seen him play. How is that possible?
Yeah.
Did Harry just not practice with the team? Like, does he trust him that much? That tactic seems a little strange. Or is he like practicing in like a transfiguration classroom? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. And to be honest, this like Wood thinks this matters a great deal, and in some sports it does. Like I feel like a scouting report in football kind of matters, but I feel like a scouting report in Quidditch doesn't matter that much. It's just who's the better flyer or not. So like, what is he protecting? Like I played soccer for my whole life. Same thing with basketball. Like, and when I was playing high school basketball, like my coach would give us a scouting report on the other team, but I didn't listen to that. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to go out there and play the same way that I've been playing. I'm not going to like favor my opponent for like however I think they need to play. Maybe like in minor ways. But how they hit Harry, which seems bizarre, and even why they hit him in the first place seems bizarre to me.
Well, I can see it in some cases. I can defend it in some cases where, you can have players that have different, like a more offensive mind versus defensive mind. Like I always thought of Cedric, he's like a big body seeker. He was more of a defensive minded seeker where he would kind of incorporate himself to protect the chasers. And that one iconic scene where Harry flies into all 7 of the players somehow of the Slytherin team and then makes them scatter. I think that's something that a defensive minded seeker would do. And so I guess maybe the scouting report will build the, showcase that side. Although just seeing how scrawny Harry is as a first year, I think it makes sense that he would be a more offensive-minded seeker. I don't know, his little tiny body would be much against those big Slytherin guys.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I like even just like the small little notes that you get in some of these first few books of like who the seekers are and how they play and like their different strategies through playing. And I like the one note that we get. Is it in book 3 where Slytherin changes their whole team to be a bunch of brutes? And like how that changes the entire dynamic of the Quidditch match. That'd be fascinating just to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when the Cavs had like 3 6'10" players on the court at one time. Like, those players are so huge. I don't know how that's even possible for them to work together. But I guess when you have Crabbe and Goyle who that big and burly, maybe at some. That's the thing. I think at the end of the day, the Quidditch team you need a mix of types of players. And that's where you get your versatility. So.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I feel like it'd be fun coaching Quidditch. I think I would love that.
That's what we're missing. We're missing an actual coach.
Yeah.
In this case, it's the captain that's the coach. But who's to say that the captain actually knows how to, to run plays and things like that? It seems like they're mostly on their own for a lot of it. Like, who's to say that Harry knows all the chaser plays, as a seeker when he's captain? It seems a little arbitrary to me. I think you need you need McGonagall, like, in the background leading these tactics.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. I would love to see McGonagall jump into a Quidditch match too, and just like get old tape of her playing Quidditch and how good she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was playing with Milkman and Fleming. You think that she would?
You need to bring her back for the alumni game.
Yes, the alumni game. Absolutely. That'd be so great. What else do you guys see? There's not a ton in this chapter. It's just pretty much just Quidditch, but what else do you guys see in this chapter?
I always wondered why Snape didn't go to like Dumbledore or Madame Pomfrey to help with his leg. Like, why is he in the staff room with Filch? Like, I don't know, like it just bugs me a little bit. I'm just like, I don't know, because if Dumbledore is told him that he needs to keep an eye on Quirrell, then he doesn't need to keep the fact that he's injured his leg as Dumbledore. And then Madame Pomfrey, of course, is the natural choice to fix body parts that have been injured. So why be doing this in the teacher's lounge with Filch? I don't get that.
With Filch, yeah, of all people, it's with
You know,
Filch.
like, he doesn't seem adept at like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Filch, literally the only staff member that can't help him.
Yeah.
I feel like Filch just happened to be there, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to go back and look to make
He
sure.
recruited him to help him. Yeah.
Filch just
Still, I
sweeping
mean-
that room.
Like, go to the hospital wing. Go to Madame Pomfrey. Or if you don't want Madame Pomfrey to know about it, go to Dumbledore. Like,
Honestly, it matches with Snape's character that he wouldn't want to go to the. I don't see Snape as ever going to the hospital wing because he feels like he can do it himself for everything.
he also healed Malfoy when Harry completely devastated him with Sectum Sempra, but he can't fix his leg that got scratched by Fluffy.
Oh, wait, well,
He's a glutton for
Sectum
pain.
Sempra can only be repaired with his
counter curse?
with his counter curse. Yeah.
I mean,
So that's
I don't know.
That's a little different.
I don't think so. So the reason why I don't think so is because a Fantastic Beasts actually changes that to a slight degree. When he kills
And
the
this is
Chillin,
why I hate Fantastic Beasts.
when he kills the Chillin in the pool, he says the same exact incantation that Snape does, which is essentially drawing the blood back into the person and sealing up the wounds that are slash wounds. So I think Snape is essentially just saying a counter curse that's like bringing blood back into the person and fixing up like knife wounds. Maybe it's a really old spell that a lot of people don't really know about, but I don't necessarily think it's specific to Sectum Sempra. But I do think maybe that Snape is like, Fantastic Beasts. We don't even want to get into that discussion with canon or not. But I do like the idea that Snape just doesn't want anybody's help. And maybe this fleshes out his character even more, that he's like a glutton for punishment and pain. Maybe he is willing to help other people, but he wants to endure pain because of what he did. He feels like he needs to pay some kind of penance. So when he has pain,
to like magically fix it, he's using bandages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, okay. Maybe that healing spell existed before he made Sectum Sempra. Maybe that'll be the canon.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sort of like reversed it.
Yeah, maybe.
Still, that's part of the reason why I hate Fantastic Beasts.
They're not as bad as they think.
Maybe it's because it's actually a scratch from Fluffy, because I if a cat scratches me, I like swell up and like on the scratching side because I'm allergic to cats. Maybe it's like because of that scratch actually that it can't be healed.
Like a
with that
magical
spell.
wound. Yeah.
Like almost
Yeah.
not poisonous, but like
kind of like the basilisk wound.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a magical wound, so
If my
it can't
leg's
heal as
swelling up
easily.
and I can't.
Sorry?
I was just saying, like, if my leg is swelling up and I can't get it to heal on its own, like, pride be damned. I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe
That's
Filch
mean.
has a magic touch.
Well, we all know nobody likes Snape at this point still. So.
Maybe, yeah.
I forget who said it?
Filch has got caring hands. Healing hands.
They also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I said Filch has healing hands, maybe. We don't know.
That's like the one thing that he can do.
Yeah.
Aw.
He's got like first aid.
I saw
Classes.
one meme this past weekend that was it was Quirrell and Harry talking in the little final room, and it was Quirrell was saying like talking about Snape, and he's like, oh, it wasn't Snape that tried to kill you. Snape was uttering the counter curse. What? It made me think about that. Voldemort is on the back of Quirrell's head right there, and he hears that Snape has muttered the counter curse. His excuse for not letting Quirrell go ahead with this plan was because Quirrell was a lesser wizard, correct? But like, that's a moment right then and there that he could have killed Harry Potter, even if Snape doesn't necessarily like think. It always struck me as weird how Snape explained his way out of that one. Does that make sense?
Well, how is it weird? Like, what do you remember his excuse being?
I remember his excuse being that he just didn't think Quirrell was a wizard that was up to bringing the Dark Lord back.
Well, he also tells Bellatrix and Narcissa. I brought this up I feel like I brought this up the last new, but he tells them that at the time people didn't really know, like there was a question like Harry Potter might himself have been a powerful dark wizard.
Yeah, it's true.
That was his excuse later to Bellatrix and Narcissa as to why he didn't kill Harry early on when he was at Hogwarts.
Yeah, that is a great point. That's fascinating. So he was like seeing Quirrell do all this stuff, and he was kind of still testing it. But then again, Snape does say that he knew within the first like week of school that Harry had no real potential to be a dark wizard. Maybe he's just giving him more time.
Say that too, though. Like maybe he did. I mean, I'm sure he did know that. Like
he says it to Harry as out of a slight, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
I have maybe an oddball question. Do you think Voldemort was using Quirrell's eyes, but mouthing the jinx himself to jinx Harry's broom?
I don't know the biological makeup of what Voldemort is doing right now to Quirrell. It seems a little bizarre. I don't know if he could use his eyes. He just turns around in his face and he's all of a sudden seeing through his eyes.
Yeah, because I'm just going off of movie. Like Quirrell's mouth wasn't moving at all, and then Snape's was, and then so that's why they suspect Snape is because his mouth was moving, and yeah,
maybe it could be nonverbal, or I've always been on the impression that he was too weak at that point to even do any sort of magic, so he was just kind of along for the ride. He was
but it has to be a very powerful spell to jinx a broom, so it can't be necessarily nonverbal.
But I don't know. It might be advanced for Hagrid, but I feel like how advanced would it have to really be to jinx the broom?
Yeah.
Seems a little bit hyperbolic to me.
All right.
I kind of feel like
Harry could literally Accio his broom, you know?
Yeah.
So how hard would it be to do anything else, you know? I mean, who's to say anybody else could just be like, oh, Accio Harry's broom, and then
Harry falls off his broom, exactly.
There's a difference between calling a broom to you and jinxing a broom to make it act wonky.
Yeah. Like there definitely needs to be precautions. Like I'm sure the Wizarding World or the Quidditch World Cup has like precautions. There's like 100,000 wizards watching this game and no one's using magic to try to like fix the game. There's definitely precautions on that. Why are there no precautions on a game at Hogwarts? That's almost like craftier. Like there's going to be tons of students that try to like cast spells. How are all these students not doing it? Maybe Quirrell's just gifted and he can get through that. That's maybe the reason for it, but I would.
It's like when it's like when Hermione cast Confundus on McLaggen during the tryouts. It's like,
I know.
Come on.
Especially in the movies when that happens, because McLaggen is like a great seeker, much better than Ron in the movies. He seems like he's a better flyer. Even in the books, he gives a shade of he's a better keeper than Ron is. He's like a hothead. He doesn't really know what the heck he's doing, so he would be like a cancer to the team. But I love like his slow motion when he's like, it is like just a funny little moment in the movies.
Well, in the books, Harry knows that Ron is a great keeper because when he would stay at the Weasleys, they'd play Quidditch because they had like a little pitch.
Yeah.
Out back, and so he knew Ron was a great keeper. He was just nervous.
Yeah.
Maybe.
great. I don't know. I think just confidence. He definitely has confidence issues, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I never see Ron as particularly great at Quidditch.
Mm.
I mean, playing two on two in the backyard. I mean, it was Harry and Hermione. Harry isn't even a, he isn't even a chaser, and Hermione is just terrible. So I mean, that's not really much competition to go against,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't ever see Ron as like particularly good.
I'd love to stay till the end, but I have to go. Got to do some hot gossip with the neighbor.
Later.
Have a good one.
Later.
See you, Jable.
What else do you guys see in this chapter? Anything else interesting?
I always
Is it
liked
canon
Hermione's.
that? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, is it canon that Marcus Flint was held back a year because he was still on the team much later than he was supposed to?
Yeah.
He's the one that actually put into words, like, he didn't catch it. He nearly swallowed it.
Mm.
That's the first mention of Harry actually, like, swallowing I thought that was interesting.
Mm.
He was, like, pissed off that was considered a catch.
It's also the idea of snitches having flesh memories is interesting, but like, is it the specific kind of flesh that like that you touch it with? Like, do you have to touch it with the same exact finger in the same exact way?
Yeah, think about it, because whenever he took the snitch from Scrimger,
Yeah,
it didn't do anything.
so I know that,
And
but
it
that
wasn't
seems
until-
bizarre to me because like your flesh is your flesh. How is a snitch gonna not like it can memorize your? Is it like a fingerprint scanner, or is it like
apparently it is
Yeah, apparently it is.
specific.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
more general than that. Like if you touch it with any part of your hand, like it's gonna remember that it was your hand that grabbed it.
Mm.
But your mouth, like it's a very different type of surface, skin and everything, right? Like Kevin, you join you can tell us about what's different about like your tongue and the cells on your tongue versus like your hand. But I think it's more general. I don't think it's like you have to touch it with the exact same finger.
Mm.
Like I don't think it's that specific, but still specific enough that it could differentiate between your hand and your mouth.
Mm.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have like reacted, when he took the snitch initially, and it would have said, "I opened at the close," if it wasn't so specific.
Mm.
If it was more general, you know what I mean? Because it didn't say I opened at the close when he touched it. It was only later on when he realized, oh, I didn't catch the snitch, my first one. I almost swallowed it,
Yeah.
And that's when he put the two and two together, like I opened at the close.
Yeah. I also love that moment because Harry's like, you didn't remember my first Quidditch match of the exact way that I caught the snitch? Like, you don't remember that I caught it in my mouth? Like, Harry, we don't memorize every single one of your games. Get the heck out of here.
Or the
It
one
is
that
a
almost
very
swallowed it.
distinct catch.
Yeah, it is a very distinct catch. Yeah, I agreed with that.
Yeah, I mean, but I still have qualms with that, though. I mean, if you're, two seekers, right? You can still fumble the snitch and not catch it, right? And so you could technically be the first person who touches it, but not catch it. So how do those mechanics work? Does the snitch have some sort of consciousness where they know, okay, every single one of his fingers circled around me, like
what counts as a legal catch in Quidditch? It's a fascinating rule.
right?
Could be a
Exactly.
certain amount of pressure. Could be a certain amount of pressure that the snitch detects.
Yeah, maybe. I like that. It like unleashes its flesh memory when there's a certain amount of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, what if, okay, here's like an insane hypothetical. Like, you use your hand, you grab the snitch, but then right as you're completely, now maybe not fully grasped onto it, I don't know, Harry comes and swipes at your forearm, Hooch doesn't see it, does not call it as a foul. The snitch pops out, and then when they go back to register it, it's actually the first person who caught it. It's like,
let's be honest, even if Hooch saw that, she wouldn't call a foul on that.
so true. So true. Yeah, he's terrible.
I think it would
Yeah.
have to be like a circumstantial type of thing. Like they wouldn't actually like alter any rules until that actually happened, because that even happens in sports. That's the whole reason why we have new rules instigated in sports, is because okay, we have this one circumstance that has arisen,
Yeah.
and now we see the need for a new rule because like this has never happened before. So I think it's one of those things, like the circumstance has to arise before they actually, I don't know, but you'd think, Quidditch is a very old sport. You think that every single circumstance that could have occurred has occurred. I mean, I even wrote down in here, there's 700 ways to commit a Quidditch foul, and all of them had happened during a World Cup match in 1473.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was
That would be what a game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, another like thing that when it comes intrinsically when you have a sport in a magical world, you have Wormtail who Harry saves his life in that particular moment, and then that comes back to bite him, several years later. Would that impact sports rivalries at all? What if Crumb versus Joe, right? And Joe, I don't know, somehow does something where then maybe Crumb like has to owe him somehow, and then it comes back. They come the rematch a year later, and then it comes back to bite him. I wonder if that's
kind of love that. Yeah, there's ancient magic,
like deep
again.
storylines people are keeping track of, and they're like, oh my gosh, what if this ancient magic comes into play this game? That would be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be actually great. Like 8 years ago, like the commentators are definitely letting you know of all the pre-stories before that. 8 years ago, this guy caught the snitch, but this guy was falling off his broom, and another player, rather than catch the snitch, went and caught him. And so he owes him a life debt. So you're like,
the magic adds a whole another layer to it.
Yeah, seriously, that's kind of fun. These two guys did an unbreakable vow a few years ago with each other.
Somebody's gonna die.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. In grade school, they did an unbreakable vow that they will never play against each other and they will never catch the snitch. So we're going to be here for years, everyone.
Yeah. See, this is why we need a show dedicated just to Quidditch. Like,
yes.
I mean, I think there could be so many cool storylines. Like, you don't have to show the players playing every single episode. It can just be like, the rivalries within the locker room or like between teams, and then how this like these ancient magic connections between the teams, how that like impacts season by season. There's so much stuff they could do.
Yeah. Or even like this could be like a comedy series, like a Ted Lasso kind of series. Bring like a soccer coach who realizes he's like like a wizard, and he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go coach Quidditch right now, and he doesn't know anything about it, but he's gonna like get to know the team, figure out different things, like a little Ted Lasso kind of flavor. I would love that.
Yeah, even even more than that, like a squib who's been like ostracized the Muggle world, and he's like coaching this hockey team or something, and then his brother is a wizard, and then the brother is like on like I don't know related. He's on a Quidditch team. He's like, oh my god, we need you to coach our team, or else we're gonna be screwed. Dang.
That would be great.
Get me at the writer's table right now.
Yeah, seriously, Kevin, start writing this series. I'm in.
That's great.
I love how we're skipping over the fan fiction plans and going straight to writing for HBO.
Yeah. HBO, just call us. We'll write for you anytime.
Oh man.
Aren't we talking? This is totally switching gears off of Quidditch, but it's a note that I had written down. We had been talking about like where did Fluffy come from?
Mm-hmm.
Did he breed him? That was the consensus, I think, I don't know if it was, I forget where we were chatting about it, but that somehow he had maybe unlawfully bred Fluffy. But it even says in here that Hagrid bought Fluffy off of a Greek chappie. So he wasn't bred by Hagrid. He purchased him. So where did he come from?
It's a great question.
I mean, obviously he came from a Greek chappie, but is he Greek?
Yeah, who's this Greek chappie?
Yeah, in a pub is what he said. So I just remember that was a conversation that we had been having, and we never had made an agreement as to where Fluffy had come from. So
yeah, is there anybody in the series that we know who's Greek?
I don't think so.
Mm.
Percy Jackson. This is how Percy Jackson. There's a Percy Jackson connection right here.
Yeah, it's Greek because Cerberus is Greek, and that's it.
Oh, that's
okay. That's
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Okay.
That's cool.
He definitely was.
That's the crossover.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that Hagrid ever bred was the Scroots. We know of.
Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah. Even that's speculation, but where the hell else did they come from, honestly?
Yeah. He was definitely going to do something weird with that dragon, too.
I mean, they're always talking about Hagrid's like cold weather wear. It's always like moleskin and beaver fur and things like that. I wonder why they don't use magical animal furs. I mean, especially him. You'd think that he'd make like chainmail, blast into screwed armor or something, and like wear it around himself.
That's a good point.
Like,
sad if moleskin is just code word for niffler. They just don't want to say it. That'd be so sad because nifflers are great. Yeah, they're so cute.
Very possible.
What about Hermione's blue flames? Like, how come we don't see anybody else using them?
Yeah,
she's the only person in the whole series that we ever see use the blue flames. Like, are they hard? Because she uses them also in the last book.
Yeah.
Did she invent them?
As a first year inventing.
Lupin has them in book 3.
He does.
What does he do with them in book 3?
On the train when the Dementor comes, he's holding blue flames in his hand. But
interesting.
They're very rare. I mean, I always like the idea of like them. They're standing in the courtyard and they're huddled around them, and it's like the only source of warmth,
Yeah.
But like she doesn't know if they're allowed or not. So I'm like, what is it that they're not allowed? I don't know.
But it is such a funny image too, because it's like you think of that as homelessness. Like they're in this beautiful castle, and all of a sudden they're all in the courtyard, huddled around these like big tin cans with fires in them. There's like blue fire in them, but they're like a bunch of homeless students.
Yeah.
I actually think that's a super important part. We get to see like Snape interacting. Like Snape comes over then, and we see him like determined to collect evidence to hate Harry. Like that's, we know how important it is that like he is looking for evidence proving that Harry is just like James.
Yep.
And that's a moment where we totally see it. And in this first book, I mean, we see just this tug of war with Snape, and what ultimately wins out is him being a total dick to Harry, because on the surface, right, he looks just like James and he's determined to see that. But then obviously even just the physicality of Harry, he has his mom's eyes. So like every time Snape sees this boy, it's a physical, like he's looking in the mirror. It's like on the outside, he totally hates Harry. He looks like James. He's determined to see that. But then on the inside, this guy is just so turmoiled by, like massive regrets and that whole side of him. So yeah, I thought that was actually, I always track Snape moments. I think it's fascinating to track Snape throughout the course of the series, and this is one of those moments that seems small and insignificant, but
yeah, it's like the first of many encounters, Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like him looking at Harry, it's like he sees somebody who looks like somebody he hates, but has the eyes of the woman that he loves. And it's a constant reminder too, that this was a walking, living, breathing, constant reminder that she didn't pick you,
Yeah.
Ouch.
Like, and he has to face that every time he looks at this kid. It's like he's looking in the mirror.
Oh yeah. That's why I always say, like, I love Snape, but I don't, like somebody else mentioned it earlier in the Discord, like I don't like him as a person, but I like him as a character because
he is my favorite character. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For like moments like this.
Yes.
He's just the layers. Like it's just very interesting.
Totally.
Nemo, you want to say anything?
This is where we get like a taste of it. I know we have like some Snape haters, but like as a character,
I think he's one of the most fascinating. Yeah. Like again, some people think this is an over-exaggeration. I don't really think it's an over-exaggeration. I think he's one of the most fascinating characters in literature we've gotten in decades.
Of all time.
Like,
of all time.
Yeah. So good.
Hands down.
Again, no one likes him as a person. Everyone thinks he's a pretty jerk of a person, but he is fascinating.
That's where the problem lies.
Humanly flawed. Yeah.
Most people who just watch films cannot differentiate between the character and the person. And that's where my issue with people who like Snape lies. Like, it's okay to like him as a character, but he's definitely not likable as a person.
Oh, he's totally not likable as a person at all.
Yeah.
No. If I knew him in real life, I would just be like, you are such an ass.
Yeah.
Like,
And
completely.
And there's a point to it again, which is why I think he's so fascinating, is because you see why he is the way he is. Like there's clear points to it, but he still chooses a path of being a bully and being mean and being nasty and being like very, very immature. And I'm curious for like, from like a psychological standpoint, like what someone who is like a psychiatrist or a psychologist would say went on in Snape's life to lead him to the point where he is, if he has a personality disorder of any kind, if he's like, yeah, that is like actually fascinating to me now that I think about that.
I for sure think he probably has some type of personality disorder. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, what exactly it is, I don't know, but at the same time, like, you can also see then why he is the way he is, but it's still not an excuse. You know, and also I think people kind of see pieces of their own personality within, like they can kind of relate to why he's feeling the way he is. In certain instances, like especially when it comes to losing, like unrequited love and betrayal and stuff like that. That's the thing that really hits me. Like whenever I realized that he was still in love with Lily, it's heartbreaking. Like you can't help but feel for him, even though he is not a likable person.
Yeah. And again, this happened like a while ago. We were having a discussion in our Discord about this, but like just because you have some kind of like whether it's bipolar or some kind of personality disorder, which is different, like just because you have that doesn't justify you being like, you know, a jackass, doesn't justify you being mean. So again, I think Snape is just fascinating because you just see he's a bully, and then you get some of the backstory on why he really is the way he is, and it makes sense in your mind. You're like, okay, I get it, but you don't at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse it. It's just, you know, and why now.
I can't wait till we get into more Snape discussions, guys. This is gonna be great. We're going to do like a classroom setting. We're going to put like a piece of tape in the middle of the Discord. We're going to say everyone who likes Snape get on this side. Everyone who hates him get on this side. We'll have a debate.
Yeah. You're going to have people straddling that line.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, personality disorders are an interesting topic. When involving Snape. I mean, typically they become a thing. You know, typically they emerge during adolescence or like early adulthood. So I wonder, and you know, personality disorders aren't just a genetic thing. I mean, they're also impacted by your environment and you know, early life trauma and things like that. And so
for sure.
Very possible that, you know, things.
She definitely has.
Yeah, a bad childhood for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Terrible.
You know, and borderline personality disorder is not out of the question. I mean, he definitely has issues maintaining relationships with others, and I mean, saw what happened with Lily eventually. You know, very possible.
And it's almost like behavior that, like, it's almost like he's purposefully pushing people away so that he doesn't have to let them in, so that he doesn't have to feel all this. You know, because I mean, look what happened the only time that he did let someone into his life. It's like he massively messed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that is such a that's so human. It's so much easier to like just hold on to resentment and avoid than it is to like face how badly you messed up and to like allow. I mean, I think he does feel remorse, but like it's massively easier to like put up walls and shield people instead of like exploring that side of yourself. Like,
it's interesting that you say that he does feel remorse. Feel all that. I feel like that's one of the main differences. Obviously, like people like with him and Voldemort. Like Voldemort, I felt like was completely incapable of feeling any type of remorse, and I think that was that draw, that line that differentiates between like evil and, you know, redemption. And he's like, and you know, and being able to, like, Snape, I don't think is evil. He's just a jerk sometimes.
He is evil.
I don't think he's evil.
Nemo.
I do feel that Snape and that whole group, the Marauders, everyone, never grew up. They're all stuck in the past.
Yes.
I feel like they still act like they would have then, now, or like now, like after. And then like I've mentioned it before as well in my Tamale talk. Snape, like he loved Lily, okay, fine, but that was his only true friend as well that he lost. And I think that made a bigger impact than it's the woman he loved. So I can also understand his hate then, but I think that just like the main point is just that group never grew up. They just like stuck with that while the people who they were during the war.
Yeah, even like Lupin probably did the most growing up, but he still even seems a little bit stuck with his relationship with Tonks. It takes him a while to like grow up to the point where he's like, okay, like then he's excited about a kid. You know, it takes him a little bit. But that I'm completely there with you. And this is like even like a running thing, and that I've like seen with some of this kind of stuff. It like all these things seem to. I was talking to someone who's a therapist, and they were saying how they have like a slightly different theory on multiple personality disorder. That's not necessarily like this person has multiple personalities so much as the person is using a trauma response for something, where they're resorting back to their like whatever their pre-trauma state to like shield themselves from any future trauma that might come up. And I think that's fascinating in terms of like some of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff is maybe just a trauma response where you get stuck in a certain age group. Now, something that's really interesting for me too, guys, who thought we're talking about Quidditch chapters and everyone's going to be jealous that they're missing this stuff because we're talking about some of the greatest stuff in the books. Another fascinating delineation, which I always think is interesting, because Lizzie, when I'm doing this new season with her, she just hates Dumbledore. She thinks he's like very much a manipulator. So it's interesting when you guys, when you guys, it's going to be fun when that is actually published and we have like more discussion on that. I'm really excited for talking about that kind of stuff with you. But Snape and Dumbledore don't really go through the same exact thing too, like per se. Dumbledore definitely seems to have more friends, but does he? The idea of Dumbledore and Snape having friends, it doesn't seem like any of them really have friends. It seems like both of them had one love interest. Like he was going to travel the world with Doge. Was Doge really his friend? I don't know. I think maybe in part, but I don't really think Dumbledore really viewed it that much as a friendship. So I feel like both Snape and Dumbledore didn't really have friends. They were interested in, they loved someone. That person kind of scorned them. That person kind of like went a different route. And Dumbledore then learns the importance of love, but he never seems to operate under what he never practices what he preaches, really. And Snape doesn't either, but Snape doesn't really, like, he believes in that, but he like goes down a different path than Dumbledore. Rather than like going down the path of good, even though you're not doing the good yourself, to some extent, I don't know, that's like a hairy discussion. Snape just seems to be like a bully and stuck in his bully ways, where Dumbledore seems filled with compassion, but it doesn't seem like Dumbledore really is performing that or like exercising that or actually like practicing that. I don't know.
In what way?
Dumbledore never got over his love for the greater good. That's about it.
Yeah, for sure. And he just seems like, again, he seems like a manipulator in some way. But the way that I'm talking is, it just doesn't seem like Dumbledore has any true friends, which I don't know.
Acquaintance.
Yeah, acquaintances.
There are people that know him and people are gravitated towards him. I think he's like magnetic in that way, but he doesn't allow any in. Whereas Snape is off-putting.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great delineation.
At all, like, you know. So.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Because like Snape is actually an accomplished wizard. He's magnetic to me in the books, especially when we get the Half-Blood Prince and you see everything that he can do. Like, then he's magnetic to me. I'm like, I actually want to learn from him. But his personality, I'm like, actually never, on second thought, let me just stay away. With Dumbledore, I feel like there's like a point where he's like almost exhausted. He's like, everyone calls him the best wizard of the age. And he's like, anybody that comes into his life, he's like, okay, what does this person want from me? Because clearly they want something from me. So maybe he's kind of put up boundaries in some way. But I just don't see him really as having friends. I see him having acquaintances and like serving this mission, which is actually like, to be honest, I'm going to make a weird comparison. If any of you have seen Star Wars, one of my favorite characters in Star Wars now is Luthen in Andor, because this guy has like no friends because he's doing something for the greater good. He's sacrificing his whole life for what he thinks is right. And I feel like Dumbledore is kind of like that. And Snape, to be honest, is a little bit like that, but then he just, you know, he's a bully. But Dumbledore is a fascinating character to me in what he seems to be doing, but in what he's preaching, but what he actually does in practice.
You're right. They both understand the value of love.
Yeah.
Neither one of them are active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think we'll get into it more, but I find the Snape Dumbledore dynamic to be super fascinating too.
Yeah.
Like how Dumbledore pulls it out of Snape, and how like I don't think they really like each other.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think they respect each other.
I think they respect each other.
There's no love lost. It's like, well, your latest video, John, was, you know, about how much
the
Snape
one look
was so mad at him for making him do what he did.
Yeah.
You know?
It's gonna be so fun when we like get there in a few years when we get there.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're gonna go a little quicker.
This will come up multiple times.
Yeah,
sure.
agreed.
Like,
yeah. What Snape was actually feeling for Dumbledore, their relationship is so strange to me. They're like frenemies.
Yeah, definitely.
Man.
Like they just both knew a job needed to be done, and they were the only ones that could actually pull it off.
Yeah, for real. I'm very excited to talk more about the Snape Dumbledore dynamic when we kind of get to some of these more pressing chapters with this.
Can't wait till we get to the next
favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
The best. Because it's the most like infinite thing. I mean, there's like it's so fun to talk about, like the mythology and the Quidditch. That's really the rub, though, is like how does this Snape Dumbledore dynamic work out? Like it somehow manages to, but it just
I think she's a great writer. She's like such a good character writer. She creates such in-depth characters. Like again, I said this before in NEWTs, but like there seems to not be a flat character in this entire series. And people that you think are flat characters, she's like throws a little story on them later on. You're like, okay, this person actually is not that flat. This person has a lot of depth.
She's so good with character that I remember reading something whenever she finished the series, like her mind couldn't stop. It was like running a marathon. Like she couldn't just stop. Like she couldn't just be like, okay, that's it. Like the characters still have things that happened afterwards. And she's like, I could have kept writing.
Yeah.
But you know, I just find that so fascinating. Like she's like they're almost real people.
Yeah, I love that.
Like they have so much. Yeah,
I love that.
To be able to write like that, to have a brain that works that way.
I know. It's insane. It's impressive.
I think that's one of the most like enduring parts of this series for me anyway, is like that's why I keep coming back to it. It's like there's you can read any chapter from any character's perspective and find out and discover more.
Yeah. Again, that's why even this
and like being of
Go ahead. All you.
And I was just saying that like being of the generation of like this is what we read when we were like 11, 12, 13 years old. This I just feel like it helped teach me how to look with perspective on others, and it taught like especially analyzing Snape, like the number of like assholes you meet on a daily basis and come into contact with, but it's like it's always so funny for me now. I'm like, oh, they're probably a Snape. There's probably something else
like a roadmap
totally like below the surface. Yeah, like
roadmap for personalities, and no, I completely agree with you on that. Totally.
And I love one thing in the series too, no matter how bad the person is no one is irredeemable. Even Voldemort himself, who Harry is pleading with in that last book, just try for some remorse. Just try. He's like, there's a potential for redemption with him, but obviously he's too far gone. But I love that idea in the series, is that no character is beyond redemption. And it's just, it's great.
This is why Harry is a better person than both Dumbledore
Yes,
and
exactly.
Snape.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because Dumbledore
Mhm.
wouldn't have asked him for that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else probably would have even contemplated that. Like,
And again, this is why Harry is such a fascinating character, because I go through moments like book 1, I love Harry. He's funny, he's sassy, he's great. Like I go through moments of hating and loving Harry. Everyone, like book 5, Harry is like, he's tough. I relate to him so much in book 5, and I'm like, he's a tough like. And then with all his emotions, with all his like his anger swings, how he just becomes a leader and like does what's necessary and really like falls on the ideas that he was taught, which is like love is really the ultimate. That's why like even Danny today during the podcast was talking about like, oh, maybe this is like he's gonna like, you know, sacrifice himself. This love protection is gonna be like double protection. I was like,
next level love.
I was like, Danny, oh my gosh, you kind of got it.
I mean, we saw in the today's live read, right, that Harry learns to live above Dumbledore, get rid of his like secrecy and not trusting anyone, like things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are
let people in, let people help you, you know?
Yeah. It's
They don't
such
need
a
to know
hard lesson.
everything. Yeah.
Because
Dumbledore was so used to operating alone. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
like, I'm gonna do everything alone, everything by myself. And he was, you know, when I get the reasoning, like we were discussing the reasoning why certain things need to be kept a little bit quiet, but at the same time, like, accept help where you can.
Yeah, for sure. Dang, it's a convicting lesson right there. It's so good.
I don't know if there's anything else.
Oh yeah, is there anything else in the Quidditch chapter? Can we go on any other tangents?
And we digress.
Yeah.
Well, did we ever conclude whether the not allowing to bring library books outside, is that actually a rule or not, or did he actually make it up?
I think he made it up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
that
wouldn't
was
put it past him.
Snape's ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
That seems unrealistic.
Yep.
Like you're not taking it outside Hogwarts. You're taking it to the lake. That's not very far off.
I feel like we see that later too. Like Hermione's probably by the lake, you know, reading a book or something like that. I feel like
Yeah,
it's bogus.
Yeah.
All right. Any favorite lines in this chapter before we wrap up?
Every time McGonagall says, "Jordan."
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I love the one moment that Harry feels where it says, out of the corner of his eye, he saw the fluttering banner high above, flashing Potter for president over the crowd. His heart skipped. He felt braver.
He felt braver.
It's such a cute moment. I love that.
I underline that one.
Yeah.
The last line of the chapter, Hagrid looked furious with himself.
Part
of his character.
Yeah. That's great.
Part where Ron goes, where Snape is walking away and they're like, I wonder what's wrong with his leg. He's like, don't know, but I really hope it's hurting him.
Yeah. That's great.
They're so funny. They're so much
Yeah,
funnier
just
than
don't lie.
What were you saying, Cecilia?
I said you stole mine.
It's a good one.
My paragraph.
Paragraph, yeah. Got to make sure it's only a sentence, not a paragraph. There's so much good stuff. I cannot
I'm
wait.
excited for the Mirror of Erised.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I cannot wait for that chapter.
So excited.
It's gonna be so
Probably
good.
my favorite chapter of this whole book.
I know it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Oh, Ryan joins last minute.
We're about to
We don't have to riot anymore. Ryan, just tell us your favorite line in this chapter, and then you're off the hook if you have a mic. All right, we riot tonight, guys.
We'll set the Discord on fire.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, guys, thanks for joining today. This is a pleasure, as always. We'll keep up to date with the next one, but I am very excited for the next one, which is the Mirror of Erised, and then we'll do the chapter after that as well. But thanks for joining, and I'll see you guys soon.
See ya.